Okay, hello everybody. We'll be getting started momentarily. It's great to see so many participants on for the call. We've got a really, I suppose, important topic with a great panel all around the diversity and cybersecurity sector. So we'll give it a couple of seconds and I'll start to talk down through our panel then and hand over to our moderator, Brian Honan. Okay. So we've got a fantastic, it's our third session of the day, and we've got a fantastic panel here to discuss what it really is a very important topic and one a lot of people on the call here are striving to address, and that is the diversity in the cybersecurity space. The panel members are, one, we've got Blessing Usoro, who's an information security manager at JP Morgan Chase & Co. So very important and busy role. She's also founder of Cyber for Schoolgirls, co-founder of Cyber Women Ireland. We've got Donna O'Shea from Munster Technological University. She's the chair of cybersecurity there. She also is a co-principal investigator at Science Foundation Ireland and a director of IT at Cork. And we've got Rebecca Springett from Titan HQ. And she's just recently graduated from the National University of Ireland, Maynooth, back in 2020, with an honours degree in media technology and computer science and media studies. Rebecca is a technical support engineer with the global network security specialist Titan HQ. And it'll be interesting to get her fresh insights from someone relatively new to the industry. And moderating the session today will be Brian Honan from BH Consulting. And Brian is a recognized industry expert on information security, providing consulting services to clients in various industry segments. And he also worked closely with government security agencies and the European Commission on matters relating to information security. So a great panel of people, a great 45 minutes, hopefully, of discussion. And I'll hand over to Brian now and we'll learn a little bit more about the panel members.
Cheers, Eamon. Thank you, and welcome everybody to, as Eamon says, I think probably one of the most hottest topics and important topics we have here in the cybersecurity sector. And I have to say, I'm probably the most underqualified person in many ways to be on this panel. Not least that I'm an old white dude, which probably puts me in a privileged position with regards to diversity, but we have some great panel members, and we've already had a few conversations about this offline. So I'm looking forward to a great discussion today. Now, as Eamon has said, he's given everybody a brief introduction, but with all due respect to Eamon and in fairness to our panelists, there's a lot more to each of the panelists. So I'm going to ask each of them just to give an introduction of themselves and their background to you, so you can appreciate where they're coming from. So I'll go the same order that Eamon gave. So Blessing, please, could you give a quick overview of who you are and why you find this topic so interesting?
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me on this panel. I think it's an honor to be on the panel, especially with the people that I'm going to be speaking with today. My name is Blessing Usoro. I currently work for one of the biggest financial institutes as an information security manager. I hold 2 engineering degrees, one in telecommunication and the other in cybersecurity. Been in the industry now for a good number of years, and I've acted as a mentor. I've tried to support women and underrepresented people in cybersecurity. I'm one of the co-founders of Cyber Women Ireland, and I also co-founded Cyber for Schoolgirls, which is an org that is aimed to bring secondary school girls into cybersecurity and tell them about cybersecurity, and just more or less close up the gap that we have right now in the industry. I act as a mentor to different people and act as a speaker as well on different forums. One of the reasons why I'm very opportune and very honored to be in this panel is because diversity in cybersecurity is something that we address, but we don't address the root cause of it. And, you know, a lot of people talk about skills shortage and how they can get people into cybersecurity, but there are a lot of barriers that are still placed, you know, in the industry that stops people that want to join cybersecurity from applying. So I'm hoping that, you know, with the conversation that we're going to have today, there would be some improvement in the industry moving forward. Thank you.
Great, Blessing. Thank you. Donna, would you mind giving an introduction to yourself, please?
Thanks very much, Brian, and thanks very much to the itag organising committee for inviting me to participate in today's session. So my name is Donna O'Shea. I hold the position of Chair of Cybersecurity at Munster Technological University. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm one of the 15 female-only professors that were appointed under the HEA Senior Academic Leadership Award that was introduced by Mary Mitchell O'Connor a number of years ago. And through that role, I've been leading out on a number of different cybersecurity initiatives and promoting cybersecurity as a career for women and for men. I'm a principal investigator in a SFI research centre called Confirm, where I lead in the topic of cybersecurity for cyber-physical systems and cybersecurity to, I suppose, support and advance digitalization. And I'm also a funded investigator in another research centre called Connect, which is all about future networks and communications. And I lead also a research group in MTU called REAV, which basically stands for Intelligent Secure Systems. I also lead a national project that is funded by the HEA called Cyberskills. This is a collaborative project with Technological University Dublin, University of Limerick, and also UCD. And together, collaboratively, we aim to work basically across Ireland to address the critical shortage of cybersecurity professionals. And I also lead a secondary school initiative called the Cyberskills Academy that we launched for the first time this year. It's something that I'm very proud of. And I guess today, I suppose, you know, I'm very anxious to hear what my other female colleagues want to say, but I also, I suppose, I'm interested in sharing my perspective, given the fact I'm on the forefront of trying to actively promote and encourage women to participate in cybersecurity careers.
Great stuff, Donna. Thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, Rebecca, please give us a bit of a background to yourself.
So I am actually a new graduate from Maynooth. I've only been working in the industry for about a year. Like Eamon said, I have a arts degree a Bachelor of Arts honours degree in media technology. So that means I have a double major in computer science as well as media studies. Because I'm only new to the industry, I'm still finding my way, still working through it. I'm a technical support engineer with Titan HQ. So they are email cybersecurity. They offer products that help us block spam mails, viruses, and so on. I'm really honored to be here and participating today. I'm hoping this is going to be the start of a long journey in order to encourage and empower more women into going into this sector, because it's a huge, huge sector and it's becoming the newest sector. So it should be up to date with all the women. It should be a 50-50 sector for men and women.
No, absolutely. Great point, Rebecca. I think lots of talk indeed about the cybersecurity sector growing, but we do need more participants in it, and hopefully our panel today and our discussion today will help identify and address how we can encourage people from, you know, not people like me, as in white and old and stuff like that, and male, but from many different backgrounds. So thanks for that, Rebecca. And actually, Blessing, you mentioned one thing in your introduction, and I think it's a good place to start off. And you talked about barriers, that there are barriers for people from diverse backgrounds to enter the cybersecurity field. And I'm just wondering if you, for the audience, if you want to give some thoughts or examples of that, and then maybe Rebecca, after Blessing's finished, we come to you as somebody who's relatively new to the industry and see what barriers or perceived barriers that are out there, that you are indeed any of those classmates you've had who decide not to come into the industry have done. So Blessing, I'll start with you first. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. I think one of the things that I can mention is the industry and how cybersecurity is perceived as a macho industry where you have to be, a certain personality, or you have to fit a certain personality to qualify to either be in the role or to even apply for the job. There are a lot of restrictions when it comes to having certain degrees, certain certifications, and I'm not of the opinion that, you shouldn't be qualified to apply for the job. But there are so many domains in cybersecurity. There's so many aspects that you can get into the industry without just either having an engineering degree or having a bachelor's or a master's degree. A lot of the people in the industry nowadays, 25 years, they would tell you that they didn't have a cybersecurity degree when they got in. um,
I
but
still don't.
but that's a requirement now, and a lot of people, especially people from underrepresented environments, backgrounds, they don't have either the money to go through those processes, or they don't have the funds to take certain certifications. Those are one of the barriers where you have people that have the zeal, have the passion, have tried to do some of the practical work, in the comfort of their homes, lab works, and just different smaller courses, cannot get past that degree checkbox or that certain certification checkbox. You see a company is asking for a CISSP for a cybersecurity analyst, and you start to wonder, CISSP needs a 5-year experience, but if you're a cybersecurity analyst, you probably don't have this number of years. Those are one of the issues that I would call out. And then we have the cases where women that are trying to get into the industry or are in the industry are not included. I'm going to use the word included because I'm going to take myself, for example, where, I used to be a woman in the only woman in the room where I would work with other of my male colleagues, and I was micromanaged. I had my work double checked by a male colleague, but there was no one double checking my male colleagues. That brings doubt. That brings doubts when you're doing your work, when you have all the degrees, when you've checked all the boxes, but when you're in that role, when you're in the industry, and you're still questioning, people are still questioning whether you deserve to be there. Those kind of barriers are what keeps women and underrepresented people from, wanting to continue a career in cybersecurity, or even wanting to continue a career in the technical aspect of cybersecurity.
That's some very good points there, Blessing. And I was smiling when you said about requiring a degree. I don't have a degree myself, so if I was to apply for a job in cybersecurity now, I probably wouldn't get beyond the HR selection process.
Exactly.
But it's very, very valid points there about the requirements, and the being a CISPR and an analyst role is another good example there as well. Rebecca, somebody new to the industry, would you echo or agree with some stuff that Blessing has said, or what's been your experience?
My experience, one of the huge barriers, I think, which prevents women going into this industry, is the lack of encouragement from a young age. So there's such different encouragements for men and women when we're younger, at the age of 12, 13, still deciding what we want to do with our careers. And there's no encouragement for women to go into this sector or into a lot of other sectors that are male dominated for that fact. So myself, I went to an all-girls convent school. There was a huge lack of encouragement in regards of going into the technology sector, going into engineering or anything like that. The only options we had for subject picking was all art, music, home ec, business, and that was it. There was no other tech craft, construction, there was none, woodwork, nothing like that would be classified as a stereotypical male subject. So one of the ways we can try and get around this is to start encouraging women from a young age, start getting them to research into what they want to do, not focus on other subjects that they have no interest in, essentially. So, when I was younger, I had to go out, do my own research, I had to go out, find my own work placement, and figure out essentially what I had to do. There was no support from an education perspective to encourage going into the sector. So that's a huge thing we need to actually tackle. And I know Blessing has an organization that does help this, and I think it's great. That's because that's the root of the problem. Well, one of the roots of the problem to try and get women into this organization is not having an understanding or not being encouraged to do so.
Okay, some excellent points, and I was actually smiling to myself because even I thought that problem should have been and would have been addressed back in the days. But when I was in secondary school, I went to an all-boys school, and the local convent used to have to send girls to our school to take some of the science classes because they didn't do it in the convent. And I just thought, 30, 40 years later, we'd have fixed that problem, but unfortunately, it sounds like it hasn't been. Don, I'm going to come to you now because with your background and your if you like, your fingers in the pie in so many different organizations within cybersecurity, what would you say that the industry can offer those from a diverse background in terms of a career and satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fantastic opportunities for people to work in the cybersecurity industry. I mean, I've been working in ICT all my life, and the reality is I've never been without a job. I've never been without an opportunity. And this is genuine. There are a lot of opportunities for people, and there are also a lot of opportunities for companies to embrace diversity. We want to create a society, and we want to create our workplace environments that are representative of our society. And, we have a moral duty to do this, as industry leaders. And also from a company's perspective, if they create and add more diversity to the workforce and create an inclusive workforce, then there are commercial advantages, and there has been numerous surveys actually done that actually indicate this. There's also a cybersecurity skills gap, and we don't have time at the moment, and I can say this from having my finger on the pulse and talking to industry, to wait 10 years for a pipeline of students that have been inspired at national school level to actually come out and the other end, because companies are making FDI decisions and expansion decisions now. And they're saying, well, the skills aren't in Ireland, so we'll go to India or we'll go to Amsterdam instead. And in 10 years' time, we may not have the cybersecurity industry that we have now because we haven't been able to respond to the skill shortage. And we have to be more innovative in how we're actually teaching cybersecurity. And I just want to pick up on some points that Blessing made. We're not actually teaching cybersecurity in our undergraduate degree programs across most of the universities in Ireland. I mean, if we actually taught cybersecurity as part of the curriculum, then we wouldn't need and have this huge market for cybersecurity certifications that exist there currently. I mean, that's a major problem. Students in third level aren't being taught cybersecurity. And if and the certification piece, that whole market exists there because we're not teaching it. And I guess the program that we're leading in MTU, the Cyber Skills Program, in collaboration with the other universities, we're trying to create an alternative to certifications. We're saying, instead of actually taking a certification, take an academic course with us. And you can take it in your own time and pace. But the challenge is there's no bridge between the communities that represent the diverse sections of our society and the academic programs. And if we were able to bridge these communities and programs and offerings together, then we would be able to deal with the pipeline. But that's a major challenge that we're facing here at the moment, and something will have to be addressed to deal with the critical skill shortage over the short to medium term.
Yeah, no, some very good points, Donna, and particularly the one about the bridging of the communities. I think that's a key one. And but Blessing, on the same topic of the industry and offering people from a diverse background, what from your experience, what can we offer people from a diverse background, and maybe how can we promote that more to encourage people to come into the industry?
I think that there's a lot that can be done. Companies should champion diversity at the forefront of their values. I think let's start with that. And I don't mean this in a passive way, but more or less, the company is showcasing that they have a commitment to diversity and inclusion and building that within their workspace. Diverse candidates are more inclined to apply to a company where they see people that look like them or people that act like them, companies making active efforts to sort out diverse talent. Take, for example, in Ireland, by limiting, the visa barriers, for example, where you have someone from a non-EU country that has all the skills and has all the experience from the country that you're coming in, and they just need to work and they want to work and they want to grow their skills, but because of the visa barriers, they're not able to, to work or even settle in Ireland or in the field that they want to. Underrepresented communities can be found everywhere. There isn't just one place where you could go pick someone. Recruiters could either, deliberately look for members of specific communities, or even, there's this thing about the diversity quotas, where they try to bring in one or two people to fulfill a quota. You don't want to really be doing that. But I think for me, the active steps is just building a place where, even your employees would be more or less an advocate for the company, because they would then reach out to people that they know or people that they are connected with on different platforms to say, my company is looking to hire, more people. My company is looking to include people like you into our workforce, because we understand the benefit of those, of having people like you in our company, and we want you to come work for us. I think that's a step that we can take there.
Great. And kind of continuing on that topic then of what can organizations do to encourage candidates from a diverse background, which Blessing has brought up. Rebecca, being somebody new into the industry, again, and sorry to pick on your your experience of being in it, but I think it's, what do you think that organizations like mine, like those other organizations on the call here, or on the webinar here, could do to encourage more participation by female candidates or candidates from, as Blessing says, from many other different diverse backgrounds, be that disabled, neurological diversity, etc.?
Well, to be honest, there are so many things they can do, and it's so important for them to actually recognize all the small little things that they can actually put in place in their companies in order to avoid, just having a non-diverse workforce, essentially. So the first thing that comes to mind would be like implicit bias training. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but it's something that I would love to encourage in my company, especially. It's basically to, everyone can be guilty of having that small little bias at the back of their head. Now, they might not, come around full front and say, this is not a job for a woman, but there is that small little thing at the back of their head. And it's the same thing that tells us what is the social norms. And it comes into gender roles, it comes into all of that needs to be eradicated, essentially. It's like, okay, maybe you're not fit for this solely because we have a full male team. Maybe you're not going to fit in properly. Maybe you're not going to work well with the other team members. Now, and this is coming from a person who I'm the only female on my current team. And I've been trying, obviously. It's difficult to bring women into this. Obviously, we have had opportunities and it just hasn't worked out. But that's another issue that we've already discussed. So implicit bias training would definitely be something I'd recommend, just to try and eradicate that slight bias that everyone in the company probably does have at some point. Another thing, and this is specifically towards encouraging women into this sector, would be try and encourage and nurture and support women and let them grow to their full potential. And if you have senior roles being filled by women, that will encourage more women into going into that company. And the main reason is because they can see that a woman in power can empower women. So, they can see that could be me one day. I work towards that. And I think that's so important. A woman can be their worst critic. So encouraging them and supporting them to making sure that they're doing a good job. And especially if they see a female leader, can definitely encourage other women to go into. So that's why having a diverse workforce is so important, because it really does encourage other females to gravitate towards that industry and to gravitate towards that company.
I think some good points. Though it strikes me it's kind of maybe, chicken and egg type scenario. If we want a diverse workforce, but we don't have one, so how do we get a diverse workforce? Exactly. And we have talked about how maybe how the industry could help, how organizations could help. But while I still have you here, Rebecca, and I'll ask you this question, and maybe then I'll come back to Donna on it as well, is how can those people listening in on this, to our panel discussion today, how can they as individuals make changes or encourage people from diverse backgrounds to join? So how would you, like, what could I do as a middle-aged old white guy to encourage more people on into the industry, or to work with us?
It's a difficult question to even answer that, because obviously if you don't have a diverse workforce, it's kind of difficult to encourage more people to go into it. But I would definitely start at, look at the university levels. Graduates are so keen to start working, especially young females like myself. We're very keen to get out and prove ourselves, essentially. So if you start collaborating with, universities around Ireland, start offering graduate programs, and if you even encourage or support the organizations like STEM, like Blessing's organization, the Cyber for Schoolgirls, they're so important, and that shows a company's values, and it shows a company is willing to actually make the effort to become more diverse and to encourage women and other people from diverse backgrounds in their job and help them succeed in life, to be honest. And that's such an important concept for a company to actually put across to their employers and their employees and people that they're applying to work for them.
Fantastic, great stuff. And Donna, have you anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think Blessing touched on my point earlier on. I think there's a core difference between diversity and inclusion. And if employers want to be real about encouraging more diverse people into the cybersecurity industry, they need to deal with the inclusive piece actually nearly first. And they need to look at their culture, and they need to say, well, are we actually creating an environment where people can be their authentic selves? And do we have an environment where people from diverse communities, if they're in the door, can be confident and provide genuine paths of opportunity and genuine paths for progression? And it has been proven that the industry hasn't really addressed this point, because the reality is people from diverse backgrounds and women who are in the cybersecurity industry, there's less representation in actually leadership positions. We earn less money, and there isn't mechanisms for us to actually engage with HR to actually resolve any issues that we have. And I think these are facts, right? But I think there is also another challenge that the multinational organizations have been kind of leading out on this inclusion piece, nationally. And the challenge for SMEs is that they don't have the resources, to actually do the inclusivity piece to the same level that, say, multinationals are actually doing it. And this is a problem. I also just want maybe pick up on a comment that was made as well in relation to the partnerships with universities. I'm just giving you an example. I worked with Dell in developing a program that was focused on the LGBT community. And Dell came to us and they said, look, we want to provide a mentorship program for your graduates in our organization. And what they did was that they took 20 of our graduates and they placed them in technical roles, and they mentored them in technical roles in their organization. And they encouraged them, well, you are a member of a diverse community, and you are a member of the LGBTQ community, but how can you be your authentic self? And how can you have the confidence to grow? And a result of that mentorship program, Dell employed the first ever transgender employee, and that person was able to be comfortable and confident and authentic in their workplace. And that was quite a transformative program. And it just demonstrates the power of partnership between, say, third level and industry sectors.
Very, very good. And Blessing, I want to come back again to something you said in your intro. And to be frank, it's something that I have observed and to a certain extent have experienced, particularly on social media. And I've often felt it is a challenge that we have in the industry. But this macho environment that is generated, even the language we use in cybersecurity, like penetration testing, DMZs, cyber attackers, you know, like it sounds like we all want to be James Bond, James Bonds or Jane Bonds even, but like how can we fix or address this aggressive macho culture that a large section of cybersecurity does have, and I can imagine it being very unwelcoming to people to come into the industry.
I think that's going to be a very huge battle to fight. Just because we don't have the numbers, you know, we don't have we're not looking for equal number, but we don't have enough number to say, well, we're on the same team. And what I mean is just women and other underrepresented groups compared to men. The men outnumber, you know, the rest of the groups. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, even in this modern day, the hacker is represented as a man in a black hoodie in a laptop, you know, not a woman, not a trans person. It's just a man. I think the language used in cybersecurity could change. It could improve if people in leadership, senior management are willing to, you know, see everyone as equal, and equal in the sense that men, women, other people bring in the same set of skills. They bring in the same knowledge. They, you know, they're equal when it comes to delivering. The macho presentation of cybersecurity comes from the fact that men have always outnumbered, you know, women and other people. So in a room, just as Rebecca said, in a room of you know, 13 men, and she's the only woman, I can relate to that. As a woman, there isn't much support. You know, my previous team was like that, where it was a thing of make her feel like she's part of the team, but I'm in the team. Like, you don't have to make me feel like I'm part of the team. I deserve to be there, you know. So the men that are, you know, in these teams, the men that are in these companies need to make very active decisions to be allies. I think you know, that's where we should start from. We start from breaking this macho-ness, from being allies, for, you know, being a representative of diversity in your firm, in your group, speaking up to your managers or the stakeholders about increasing the diverse pool. And by increasing the diverse pool, you break down that this is a team of men and there's one woman, and then you have to make her feel part of the team. You know, if you have minorities in your team, make sure that they are treated with respect. You know, make sure that the work that they do is appreciated, the work that they do is commended. You know, or companies can even create groups. Like, you know, Donna mentioned that multinational companies or global companies have been able to do more with this, and SMEs are struggling. But, you know, there are so many ways that companies can create smaller groups or business groups that would support, for example, foreign employees or working parents, for example, or even the physical impaired or the neurodivergent employees. You know, by trying to mix your team with all these different people, you break down that we are supposed to look like this, or we're supposed to be a man in a black hoodie with a laptop, because a woman can be a hacker, a trans can be a hacker, anyone could really be a hacker. It doesn't have to be a man.
Very good, very good. And Rebecca, any thoughts or comments from you about this, the macho-ness? I'm going to use the word BS, bullshit, that there is out there, because that's what it is. But, you know, any thoughts on that?
I think it is going to be an uphill battle, and that's the main thing, because it all falls into the whole norms in society. What is the norm? Like, what do we normally see? What do we associate things like? What do we associate a hacker with a man in a black hoodie? It's kind of trying to eradicate those actual associations, essentially, and make people realize, like Blessing said, a hacker could be anyone and doesn't have to be a man in a black hoodie behind a laptop. It can be someone within your organization. It could be a woman. It can be a trans. It can be anyone that falls into the diverse category as well. So like I said, it's a long battle, because I mean, this has been talks about eradicating gender roles and eradicating stereotypes for how long now? I mean, I studied it in my 3 years of media studies. So it's just trying to make people more aware and try and eradicate that bias of what is meant to be socially acceptable, and to get rid of that essentially from society.
Very good, very good. I think both of you have made key points there. Is social acceptability, sorry, and as Blessing said, if you're part of the team, you shouldn't have to be made to feel you've earned your way there. You are part of the team based on your own capabilities and abilities as well. There are quite a few good comments coming up in the chat, so thank you, folks. Please do keep them coming in. I will include some of the comments and some of the questions in a few minutes, but I think we're hitting a nice vein of good interaction here, and some, I will hold my hand up, and as somebody who has been proud of his company as being probably want to be diverse, and that would be 55% female participation in the company. Our COO was female. We do have a partnership with Technology University Dublin on a BH Consulting Academy, where we take in a graduate and push them through 2 years of doing a master's course. So, but even I'm learning a lot from this engagement. So thank you very much. And Donna, I just want to come to you now. The next question or area that, like we've talked about individuals, we've talked about companies, we've talked about industry. What can the government do to encourage individuals from diverse backgrounds to get involved in cybersecurity? And maybe Blessing, then after Donna, maybe you could give some thoughts on that as well, if you wouldn't mind. So Donna, any thoughts, insights that the government could support?
I think there are a lot of things that the government could support. I suppose the first thing is that the government is not going to intervene in the industry. They only can, I suppose, control the public sector. And, I suppose, like, even say Blessing going into national schools and, trying to make change in national school level, that's really a government intervention. You know what I mean? And that's something, that can't actually be rolled out nationally without government support and without training of national school teachers. And, and again, the pipeline is long, right? I can talk about, I suppose, the government can control the public sector, and I could talk about my own role. And, leadership is a key part of, driving change. And before there's leadership, generally there's someone who's courageous, of bringing, the scale of the problem to the attention of the media and to the attention of government and to the attention of the industry. And my position of chair of cybersecurity basically is a result of the courage of one woman in particular, who is from Galway, Dr. Shee Sheffleton, who has basically presented her case to the Equality Tribunal that she was discriminated on the basis of gender when she actually went for a senior lecturing position. And her case and her courage and the subsequent media attention around her case really brought to light the lack of female participation across all higher education institutes, across the entire academic sector. And as a result of that, the HEA, the Higher Education Authority, actually undertook a gender review of women in senior academic leadership positions across the sector. And it found that men held leadership positions across the Higher Education Authority sector. And this led to an unconscious bias of promoting men to senior academic leadership positions. And through the courage of certain women and through the leadership of the government of implementing a set of measures, they actually introduced the female-only professors, and I'm one of those female-only professors. I'm one of the recipients of the SALI professors, and now I'm in a leadership position to drive change. And there's probably just something else that I just want to commend you, Brian, on, is that, in order to make change, there has to be courage, There has to be women and people from diverse backgrounds in leadership positions. But industry and government are not going to interfere in industry, need to put their hands in their pockets, and they need to support the change. And supporting scholarships or supporting PhD positions from members of diverse communities is a way of doing that, because access to education and barriers to education is one of the biggest reasons why women and why members from diverse communities are not actually in the leadership positions to drive change. It has been proven that if you hold a PhD or a master's, you're more likely to hold a leadership position as part of your own role. And for me, they're the key ingredients.
Very, very good. Some very, very valid stuff there. And I think you are right. Industry does have to take the lead, and we can't rely solely on government to intervene on this. Blessing, have you any thoughts you'd like to share on this?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to what, Donna said, which is, very accurate, that, it's almost like a national initiative, but, it's more or less a private person or a private sector that is trying to push this. I think what the government can do is to support initiatives like Cyber for Schoolgirls and the cyber skills from the MTU, which I know that they are doing as well. But the government needs to also see this as a problem, because that's where the support will come from. So they need to understand that, a more diverse workforce, a more diverse community, brings much better outcomes in terms of any challenges or any issues that is going to be resolved. So one thing that the government can do is to make a conscious effort to prepare the teachers. As Rebecca said, all girls secondary school didn't have the same opportunities as the all boys school had. That's a discrimination at the government level, if you ask me. And I think that the government can, break such barriers by, partnering with public or private, organizations that are trying to drive this change, and, bring this opportunity to everyone at a national level, because it's a lot of work, trying to go in as a one person or as a team of private people, trying to convince the teachers that cybersecurity is a real job and it's not about hacking. We have to start from there, because I'm sure if you ask some of these kids what they know about cybersecurity or security, like, are you a hacker? That's the first question. And the image of a hacker is not always a positive one, as we know. This year has taught us a lot as well in Ireland. So teachers need to understand that cybersecurity is a field, and the only way that they can get that understanding to be able to pass that knowledge to their students is if the government brings an initiative that educates them, that prepares them for, the now, the future, and also helps the teachers in a way where everything that they say, every encouragement that they give their students when it comes to choosing, a career or choosing a path to the next phase of their lives centers around, cybersecurity, or this is an option for you, or you can belong here, or you can do this, or you can use your skills in being very, attention to detail to work in cybersecurity, because that's something I've noticed from you as a student. Like, when the teachers are involved, the students will be involved. And I think that the government can actually bring up initiatives and partner with other, private sectors to drive this change from the teachers down to the students.
That's very good. I was actually laughing there when you talked about hackers, because reminding me of my one of my sons when he was in primary school being asked by the teacher, "What does your daddy do?" And he said, "He's a hacker." And needless to say, we got a phone call from the school advisor, to try and explain what does daddy do for a living. But there's some great questions coming in. So I'm going to wrap up our session here at my questions, and then jump into some of the questions in the panel. I'm going to ask each of the panelists, and I'll start with Rebecca, and then I'll ask Donna and Blessing for maybe one or two tips that if we're looking to support somebody to get into the industry, what are those tips you would give that individual who may be from a diverse background to get into how they can get into the industry. So Rebecca, just wondering if you have any thoughts or tips that you'd like to share with anybody out there who's listening in, who's watching the recording, as to how they could break into the industry, and maybe how some of us in the industry could help them get in?
Well, we've been talking about how that, as much as industries and companies want to be able to hire women and people from diverse backgrounds, just the skill set just isn't there. So my main tip would be for anyone that is either female or from or member of the diverse community, my main thing would be your work ethic. Tick all their boxes. That's the main thing. Make yourself an attractive employee, because as much as that probably sounds like you have to prove yourself, they can, if you have all the boxes ticked, they're going to find it very hard to turn you away. And if that's a job that you want, it's all about working hard in this industry, and in any industry really, in any career path, it's all about working hard. It doesn't get just handed to you, and it really doesn't. And especially when you're working in the technology sector, it's all learning constantly. You're never going to know the amount of things I see daily that I haven't a clue what they are. You have to go out and you have to research these things. So work ethic, research, and self-motivation is my 3 things that I would recommend anyone to work on and to have when trying to apply for jobs in this industry.
Very good. Donna, any thoughts or comments from yourself?
Yeah, I think there are all the initiatives I think there are a huge amount of initiatives already in place. What I think is missing is the bridge between the communities. Even if you look at the education piece, which I think is phenomenally important, because, cybersecurity is a hard industry. You need to have knowledge of networking, you need to have knowledge of software, and you need to have knowledge of how to, exploit vulnerabilities, and think about possible attack scenarios, exploiting these vulnerabilities. And this is not an easy thing to do. It is a very technical, a lot of the roles are very technical, but there are a lot of ways into cybersecurity. I mean, there are 56 courses nationally in cybersecurity.
Wow.
Okay. And about 15 of them are free, completely open. And you can actually apply for them through the ICT Skills Springboard Initiative. We have programs at apprenticeship level, higher certificate level, industry certifications, bachelor's, certificate, honors degrees, masters, apprenticeship masters, PhDs, every single level across every single geographical region. Then why aren't people from the diverse communities accessing this education? Because the bridge doesn't exist. And we need to focus on the bridges. We need to understand what the barriers are for these people in various diverse communities. What are their barriers, and and genuinely look at how to resolve those barriers so that they will take up the opportunities that already exist and pursue a career in cybersecurity to deal with the urgent skills issue that we have now, and to make sure that our industries and our society have the skills and the resources they need to protect their business and to grow in the future.
Very good. And that backs up the comment you made earlier on about if we don't have the skills here, the companies are going to move on to other countries and we're going to lose out. Blessing, do you want to give any thoughts you have on this?
I think Donna and Rebecca has said a lot. I think one thing I'm going to conclude with is getting into cybersecurity, regardless of whichever role you choose to, or whichever domain you choose to start from, is not easy. Be it soft or technical, it's not easy. You have to come into cybersecurity with a willingness to learn. That is something that never stops happening in cybersecurity. And regardless of the role, the position that you're in, be it a manager, a CTO, a CISO, you would always need to learn. So if you're trying to break into the cybersecurity industry, that's a mindset that you need to have. That's a skill that you need to have, the willingness to always learn and evolve, because at different points in your career in cybersecurity, you will do different things. Be it being a security analyst, you work with multiple tools. If you're a compliance, there'll be so many regulations that would come up that you'd need to adapt to and help your company. So, going into the industry and knowing that I'm not just here to make money, or I'm not just here to be cool, because cybersecurity is now cool, but you're here to evolve, you're here to learn, and you're also here to protect, the company and the data and the people that are, looking up to you to protect whatever it is that they've handed over to you. Just that mindset of I'm here to learn is going to really, push you to the next level of your career, because it evolves. It's not one thing. And also, the ability to learn is also one of the benefits of being able to move around the different domains of cybersecurity. You could start today as a security engineer or an architect, and the next day you're working in a consulting firm, helping companies with ISO 27001 implementation. That's not something that you would do at a security analyst level, but it's something that you can learn how to do at that level to be able to progress your career. So just go into the industry and know that, if you're willing to learn, then the industry is going to embrace you.
Yeah, no, very, very good points. And just before we open up to comments from the floor, if a floor is a thing in a virtual environment, some of the chat things I just wanted to highlight. Comment there for Cotton M5. And it's a very good point. Women generally need to tick every box of a job spec to apply. Men will apply if they only tick 50%. Research and data has been around back since 2014. Yet most companies still send out wish lists as job specs. If you want to attract a more diverse workforce, start by turning down job specs. This is especially highlighted when recruiting the next generation of cyber tech talent and should not be a hard thing to implement. I think that's a very good point. I think it backs something that you said, Blessing, earlier on about the CISP requirement for an analyst. We do need to tone down the requirements. And I suppose coming back to what Rebecca said as well is encourage people to take that jump, even if you're applying for a job and you don't fit the job 100%. Apply for it anyway. Most males have done it.
The person that hired me actually told me is like, anyone can learn. They're looking for a particular personality type at the end of the day. Anyone can learn the skills if you give them the opportunity to. So I think that's highly important when hiring people in this sector. Look for a personality type that you're looking for essentially, and anyone can learn the skills.
Yeah, and I think a very good comment as well in from Professor Lisa Shorten. It's probably an area of diversity that we kind of overlook. Is ageism is a highly underappreciated discrimination and barrier, and particularly for over 50 women being a crisis area in the economy. I think that's a very good point. There's a lot of great people out there over 50, both male and female, who have lots of skills or who've developed skills outside the industry that they can bring in that we've kind of ignored. There's one question that came in at the top of the thing, and I'll just throw it out to the panel, and please, if any of you want to answer, just do and comment on it. For the panel, do you feel that the diversity issue is worse in ICT industry, and I suppose in particular here in cybersecurity, than in the workforce in general? Is cybersecurity a special unicorn when it comes to diversity, or is it widespread outside of cybersecurity?
I personally don't think it's targeting cybersecurity. It's just one of the industries that are particularly bad. Like if you look at, for example, I have friends who are in teaching, nursing. They're more female dominant. So you have the other spectrum, the other end of that. So I don't think it's industry, it's just cybersecurity. I think it's a societal problem at the end of the day. I think it's everywhere, and that's what needs to stop.
I think also the issue with us focusing right now in cybersecurity is that we don't have a lot of women that are studying technical degrees or ICT engineering degrees, or be it the BSc, for example. So that's one of the issues where we have such a low number, because if we look at the industry today for cybersecurity, only 24% make up women. That's a very low number compared to teaching, for example, or marketing, where you could see more or less a 55-45%. Cybersecurity in today's day have 24%, which is really low. And that's because we don't have enough women that are moving from, that bachelor's degree of IT or tech or cybersecurity into the workforce. So that's one of the reasons why we're one of the least represented industry when it comes to, the gender disparity.
Yeah, maybe just I can add to that. There was a very, very good report done by Oxford a number of years back that basically says that approximately 20 to 25% of graduates in engineering and science actually are women. But we don't see 20 to 25% of women working in the workforce, right? So what happens to them? Well, 40% of them on graduation actually decide never to pursue a career in the field. And then we lose a further 56% of women within a 10-year period. And this is actually unique to the ICT industry, because it's not because women have babies, because women in other areas such as physics or biological sciences or nursing, they don't have an attrition rate of 56% after 10 years. It's because of the environment and the culture of which they're working in. And that is a serious problem, and something that organizations and industry really need to look at. We are producing enough women to drive change, but we're losing them because of culture and because it's not an inclusive workplace. And that's the reality.
That's a fantastic closing comment there, I think, Donna. And I think it is the nub of the problem that we face as an industry. Is we are not as inclusive as we should be. There are loads of stuff, comments in the chat, and I would love to be able to get around to them all. And I'm sure if we open up to the floor, we will get a lot more comments. This is a topic that obviously is high on the priority list for many people, and is a major concern for employers and indeed for candidates in particular. So I'd like to thank, I'm sure we could keep this panel going for hours, but unfortunately we do have to wrap it up. And so I'd like to thank very much the panel for their participation. I, for one, have learned a lot today, and you may have noticed I was taking plenty of notes during the conversations, which I'll be bringing to my team to see can we implement and support. So thank you very much for your insights. Blessing, Donna and Rebecca, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Okay, so the next session will start at 2. So, I encourage people to stay on the line, and we'll get rolling shortly. And it'll be with Andrea Manning from CyberPie, and she's going to talk about creating your what if plan. It's a cybersecurity guide for SMEs. So it's what happens if you find yourself in a situation where you're dealing with cyber type incidents and occurrences. What do you do? So I'd encourage people to maybe take a few minutes of break, and hopefully you can get back to us.